Hello and welcome to Pokemon Lair. Today we're going to be unboxing a box of 10 cards I sent to the Professional Sports Authority over a year ago to be graded. They come in this box inside a bigger box surrounded by packaging. They have some great packaging inside to keep them safe and sound until they arrive at your house. So let me get them out of the box and we'll take a look at what grades I got. Okay? Our grade review of the 2000 Pokemon game Base 2 Alakazam Holo, the #1 card. Look at the surface of this card. It looks really good. There's no scratches, bends, or damage. Looking at our centering, the centering looks good from top to bottom and side to side. And finally looking at all our edges and corners, I don't see any fraying, but there are what they call silvering on the right edge. Looking at the back, it looks pretty good. The surface is pretty clean. Looking at our centering looks pretty good from left to right and top to bottom. Looking at our edges, our right edge has a little bit of damage, and that's it. And that's going to give us a grade of near mint 7. Not too bad. Our grade review of a 2000 Pokemon Game Base 2 Beedrill, a #21 card. Looking at the front surface of the card, there's no scratches, damage, or bending. Looking at the centering and the front of the card, you can see that it's off to the left. Looking at the edges, they're nice and crisping with no fraying. Jumping to the back, you can see that the surface looks really good. There's no bends, scratches, or damage. Looking at our centering, you can see that it's off to the right. And finally to our edges, you can see that they're really nice and clean. There's no fraying on the corners or sides. And that will produce a grade of mint 9. Nice. Our grade review of a 2000 Pokemon Game Base 2 Chansey Holo, the #3 card. Looking at the front surface of the card, there's no scratches, bends, or damage. Looking at the centering of the card, it looks really good from side to side and top to bottom. Finally, looking at our corners and edges, they look really good, except there's a slight silvering, as they call it, across the top. Switching to the back, you can see that the card looks really good. The surface is clean. There's no bends. Looking at our centering, it's slightly to the right. And finally, looking at our edges look clean. There's no fraying on the corners or the sides and top. And that is going to pull us a grade of near mint 8. Not too bad. Our grade review of a 2000 Pokemon Game Base 2 Dugtrio, the #23 card. Looking at the front surface of this card, there's no damage, bends, or scratches. Looking at the centering of the card, it looks like it might be slightly to the left. The edges look really clean. There's no fraying or damage that I can see. Jumping to the back, you can see that the surface looks really good. There's no bends, damage, or major scratches. Looking at the centering, it looks pretty good, maybe a little to the left. Looking at the edges and corners, there's slight fraying or damage on the lower left. That's going to give us a grade of mint 9. Not too bad. Our grading review of a 2000 Pokemon Game Base 2 Clefable Holo #5 card. Looking at the front surface, I don't see any scratches, bends, or damage. Looking at our centering looks like it might slightly be off to the left. And finally, looking at our edges and corners, I don't see any damage or fraying there. Continuing with the back, you can see that it looks really good. There's no bends or major scratches or anything on our centering. It looks not too bad. It looks like it might be within tolerance. Going to our edges, there is some slight fraying and edge damage on the upper right corner. And that's going to end us up with a grade of near mint 8. Not too shabby for a 20-year-old card. Our grade review of a 2000 Pokemon Game Base 2 Electrode, the #25 card. Looking at the front surface, there's no scratches, bends, or damage that I can see. Looking at the centering looks pretty good from left to right and top to bottom. And finally the edges and corners, I do not see any fraying or other type of damage. Looking at the back, you can see that the surface is really nice. There's no scratches, bends. Looking at our centering looks really good from right to left and bottom to top. And finally, if we're going to our edges and corners, you'll see that the lower right has a little bit of fraying or damage to it. And that means we're going to end up with a grade of Mint 9. That's pretty good. Awesome. Our grade review of a 2000 Pokemon Game Base 2 Gyarados, a holo number 7 card. Looking at the front of this card, there's no scratches, bends, or damage that I can find. Looking at the centering of the card, it looks pretty good from top to bottom and side to side. And looking at the edges, I don't see any silvering or fraying. Looking at the back, it looks really good. There's no bends or damage to it. Looking at our centering, it looks pretty good from side to side and top to bottom. Looking at our corners and edges, there is some damage to both top corners and a little on the right lower edge. And that will give us a grade of near mint 8. Not too shabby. Our grade review of a 2000 Pokemon Game Base 2 Mr. Mime, the number 27 card. Looking at the front of this card, there's no scratches, bends, or damage that I can see. Looking at the centering of the card, it looks a little off to the left and towards the top. The edges of it look really good though, and so do the corners. Looking at the back, you can see that it looks really good. There's no bends or scratches that I can see. Looking at the centering, it looks pretty good, except it might be slightly off to the right. Finally, to the edges and corners, there might be a very slight edge corner damage on the upper right. And so that's going to give us a grade of excellent mint 6. I don't think all that grade is good. It should have been better than that. Our grade review of a 2000 Pokemon Game Base 2 Magneton, the holo number 9 card. Looking at the front of this card, the holo looks really good. So does the whole surface of the card. There's no scratches or bends. Looking at the centering of the card, it looks really good on the front, from top to bottom and side to side. Finally, looking at our edges and our corners, they look really good. There is a little bit of what they call silvering on the right side. Looking at the back, you can see that there's no bends or scratches on the back. On our centering, is off-centered a little bit to the left. Finally, on our edges, there is some slight damage to the corners. And that will give us a grade of mint 9. Awesome. A mint 9 holo from 20 years ago. Wow. Our grade review of a 2000 Pokemon Game Base 2 Pinscher, the number 29 card. Looking at the front surface of this card, it looks really good. I don't see any bends, scratches, or damage. Looking at the centering of this card, it looks pretty good from top to bottom and side to side. And looking at all our edges, I don't see any damage or fraying there. Looking at the back of the card, you can see that it looks pretty good, but there's a slight bend at the top of left of the card. The centering is slightly off to the left. Edges look really good, so the corners, but we do have that slight bend at the upper top left. And if you look, you can see that there is that bend on the upper top right of this one, and our grade is going to be a near mint 7. I don't think that's too bad with that bend in it.